treated me for 20 minutes. She did reflexology. She could hardly touch my big toe. And I was released of 70% of my pain. My mother, who is like the most pragmatic person in town, looked at me afterwards and said, like, you don't look like before.
Welcome to a new episode of Most Memorable Journeys. I have a very fascinating guest today, and it's funny how we met because I was actually doing some promotion of my podcast on Facebook, and I sent her a message. We have never met. We were just Facebook friends. She wrote back to me that she has a lot of stories to tell as well, and she would like to be a guest. And she told me what she does and who she is. And I thought, absolutely, definitely my kind of girl. She is born in Switzerland, but her mother is from Argentina, of Ukrainian parents. Her father escaped Nazi Germany and went to Israel. Her husband is from South Africa, and they met on the internet, but they actually met in Australia. I don't think it can get any more complicated or fascinating or international like that. Edna Schur is a natural or functional medicine practitioner, and we have a lot to talk about, my dear Edna. Welcome to Most Memorable Journeys.
Thank you so much for having me on such short notice. I mean, this is like 2 weeks ago that we only started chatting, right?
I am a woman of action. When I like somebody, I want to get it down because otherwise they escape. You know, when you don't catch people immediately, there is always something.
That's the same way that I work as well.
Exactly. So you are in Zurich. You have a very interesting job. You help people in various ways connected to hormonal matters, especially also infertility, which is a big deal in today's world, and people don't talk about it much.
Breaking taboos is a bit my thing. And when I was a teenager, I liked to shock people, and today I break taboos in health matters. I do functional medicine, and maybe my background is I started off with naturopathy in Israel, 2006, and then I went over to Chinese medicine, and that was then not yet enough for me. So I studied epigenetics and genetics, and that was even not enough for me yet. So someone told me in 2018, early 2018, they told me, why don't you do functional medicine? So like, what is that? I looked it up, and then I decided to do the IFM course, which is for doctors actually. And it was very challenging 3 months of studying a lot, like to get all the biochemistry that doctors do. It is the answer to all my prayers, like to everything that is going on, to understand patients or clients. I call them clients because patients for me is a passive way of behavior, and if you have clients, they're taking action by themselves. So, but anyway, and so since years already, I'm specialized in endometriosis. Endometriosis is a condition that is estrogen dominance usually, but that can also vary in many. I mean, you can be progesterone deficient and normal estrogen, and then there is this dominance, or it can be really an estrogen dominance, normal progesterone. It can vary so much. And out of endometriosis, you, of course, have the infertility. So usually those women do not fall pregnant very easily. I worked also for a long time only with just infertility. But the combination, I need a little bit of everything. I have people with Hashimoto, which have infertility issues, or male infertility is also very, very interesting. And nobody talks about that because the males are so, everything is great with them, right? It is something very interesting to talk about. And it sometimes takes the couples or the woman a bit of time to adapt or adjust or think about other options. Like, no, I'm not going to ever do IVF. And then after a month or two, when you say like, look, probably this is the way for you to go because you've got blocked tubes or so many cysts or something like that, then they start to warm up to a new situation. I mean, this is just our world, right? It tells us you have to be perfect in everything. So you have to be also perfect in making a baby with sex, having it the natural way, and then giving birth the natural way. And also, there is another very interesting aspect. A lot of women who had IVF children are tending to have C-sections because that's what the doctors say. It came in natural, so let's have it in natural or not naturally.
But that is not true. That is not necessary.
No. I gave birth to both my children, my daughter in the birth house, so no doctors involved, and my son, unfortunately, in the hospital, but still in a very natural way and no drugs involved, nothing.
Since you are talking about giving birth, well, we're going to come back to your methods. But you were telling me before when we were talking that both your children are IVF children. Yes. And you were saying it so beautifully, openly. And I would like you to talk about this a little bit because I just think it's such a taboo. This is one taboo in today's world. And another taboo in today's world is mental health. We are not allowed to have a mental problem. We always have to be happy. We always have to be perfect. And of course, social media doesn't help. So both your babies were, as you said, they were made in not by you.
made with love.
Made with love. But your daughter was made in South Africa, right?
Yes, exactly. And a very special thing. So my husband and I, we got married in 2011. In Israel. Well, the civil one we had in Sydney and the traditional one we had in Israel. Then we tried to fall pregnant and tried and nothing. And I did, of course, all the Chinese herbs and went to acupuncture and did everything that I would do to others as well. But unfortunately, there was no result to that. So in 2015 to 2016, we went to South Africa to visit my parents-in-law and the siblings of my husband. And I knew that my sister-in-law also did IVF for her daughter, who is now, I think, 16 years old. Yeah. And then she said to me, the IVF that I've done is something very special. You only have it in South Africa or in America. And she gave me the name of it. It's called ZIFT, Z-I-F-T. And I thought, interesting, I'm going to read about that. And then I tried to find if they have anything like that in Switzerland, and definitely not. In Switzerland, everything arrives later. It's like the joke from Einstein.
It's amazing.
Where you're going to go. You know the joke of Einstein?
No, tell me the joke.
No. The joke goes like that. Where are you going to go, Professor Einstein, when the world is going to have doomsday? So like, I'm going to go to Switzerland. Well, why that? Everything happens 50 years later.
I never heard that before, but it's a good one. Wow.
Yes. So 50 years later, I'm not going to wait for 50 years for my child to arrive. So this method is actually coming originally, the whole IVF comes originally from veterinary medicine. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but now that you're saying that, I was born on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that at all. Go on.
So in ZIFT, and as I said, South Africa or Johannesburg, and in UK, in the US, they do it. But the price in South Africa is divided by 17, so it's a lot cheaper. And $20,000 in the US, well, then you know where you're going to go. And I must say that Professor Gobetz, that was my doctor, he is 40 years in the business. He really knows his things, and he's human. And he holds your hand, and and he does visualizations with you, and so you need to visualize your child already in your arms. And so it's not a commercial, let's do number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on.
Wow.
So this method is they do until the extraction of the ovums. It's normal, like a normal IVF. So you're given hormones, you need to inject them, and then you go into theater to extract as many ovums as possible. Then there are like 2 different versions. Either you do ZIFT, which means they're combining them, it doesn't need to be ICSI, it can be just normal in the Reagenzglas, in the tube.
Yes, tube, yes.
That they let them create little
people,
versions of themselves. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the next day, there is a bigger operation. They make a laparoscopy. Mm-hmm. So they go in from 3 places, the belly button and the side, and they blow up your tummy, and they're injecting as many zygotes as possible into the tube. Oh, why into the tube? Well, because there it's usually happening. So when you have sex, in a normal case, the sperm enters the womb and it wiggles itself up into the tube. Mm-hmm. There he meets the egg. Mm-hmm. And from there, with all the enzymes and so on and so forth that is happening, the warmth, the darkness, and so on, it then wanders or floats into the womb. Mm-hmm. And settles down there. A lot of times, like there is a statistic, I think, of 15 or 20% of the women who have normal IVF, when they implant or transfer the embryo, that the embryo wanders back into the tube. Why? Because it's meant to be there and then only crawl down. So they kind of reverse it, and they put in between 5 and whatever is being produced. I think they put 8 zygotes into me with my daughter, because they say all those who die, every time when you have a death of a cell, you have like enzymes that are being extracted. Mm-hmm. And those enzymes will help the others to survive.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm. So that makes it really very interesting, right? So they put 8 in, and already the next night I dreamt that I have twins. And it was confirmed. 2 weeks later, I had a positive test, a very strong positive test, and I was very, very nauseous.
Mm-hmm. And you were pregnant. Yeah.
Very pregnant, yes. And they saw 2 heartbeats, and then I dreamt again after 8 or 9 weeks that one baby disappeared, and he or she was disappeared. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And then I had a lovely pregnancy, and in the end, I gave birth naturally in a birth house, without any help or anything. And also the whole pregnancy, throughout the pregnancy, I was with a midwife and not with doctors so much.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a perfect combination of classic medicine and natural medicine. I think they should go hand in hand. And I think the word alternative medicine is wrong. It shouldn't be alternative.
No, I hate that term.
Yes. So you needed the classic medicine to get pregnant. That's fine. Yeah. You accepted that. But then you went your way. And that is beautiful. And it's the same with so many things. I mean, and I think health, and you know that a lot better than I do, health is self-responsibility, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. That's why I also don't call my patients. I call them clients. Yeah.
Yes. We've said that before. We are all responsible for our body. And there is always a pill. You know, there is always a pill. You don't have to bother. You can have whatever you can. But that's not the solution, because the pill has side effects.
Exactly. That's exactly the point, like why they invented, or why Jeffrey Bland has invented the functional medicine. He is a medical doctor and biochemist, and very much interested also in Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine. Then his wife said to him, I think in the 80s or late 70s, said, like, why don't you just do a new kind of medicine where you are explaining the biochemical part into the Asian medicines, because Asian medicine is very founded. I mean, I can explain to you everything of TCM in a biochemical version. And I can have a bad blood result and make treatment, or I can have very simple. I can have someone with very high blood pressure, do acupuncture, and 20 minutes later it's normal. Or breathing, not good red blood cells, have them breathe give them breathing exercises, and a month later they do a test and it's all normal again.
If they do the exercise that you give them.
I'm very strict with my clients.
No, but you see, the thing is that a pill is easier. That's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, what I wanted to go on to is like the Western medical thing. It's not to blame the Professor Müller or the Professor Meyer. It's really the education that they have is very limited. It's biochemical and symptom related. So you have a headache, you get a pill. You have a migraine, you get a pill. But they don't ask, when is the migraine coming? Have you had cheese, chocolate, or red wine? Mm-hmm. Do you maybe have allergies to something? They don't have the time or the knowledge sometimes to ask those things. 5 minutes medicine, yeah. So you have the pill for the ill.
Yeah. Very true. And this is, I think more and more people are actually sort of waking up and understanding that there is so much more you can do. And you were also telling me that your daughter was made, you said it nicely, made in South Africa. Your son was made in Prague, in the Czech Republic, because of COVID, because you couldn't travel to South Africa.
Yes.
Was that the same method?
No. So funny enough, after my daughter was born, we went one more time when she was about 1. That was 5. She's now 5. Yeah. So we went 4 years ago. We went to Joburg and did the same procedure, and it didn't do anything, unfortunately. And then I started to fall pregnant by myself.
Oh.
But unfortunately, I lost them.
Yeah.
They didn't hold. So, and I must maybe also say with my daughter, I was 39. And now make a calculation, 39 plus 5, I'm 44, or turning 45 this year. Yeah, well, so my son is now 9 months old. He was born in July. In October, in September 2020, I said, okay, now or never. I want to now have another child, or we want to have another child. And I don't trust my eggs anymore really to perform well.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had many clients and friends also who did egg donation. And I thought, you know what? I'm in epigenetics and genetics. Yes, it's an egg from a different woman, which means she's also healthier and younger and more vital and blah, blah, blah. But in the end, he's growing in my tummy. He's getting my blood. So epigenetically, depending on how I behave, whether I'm barking at my husband or at my daughter, or if I'm kind, this is what he or she will get. Yeah. And I must say, my daughter looked exactly like him. I mean, my daughter, we were like, both like, oh, how is the child going to look like? And so on. We learned from our daughter, who is 100% our material, right? Our genetics. She's blonde. Do I look anything blonde to you?
No, you don't. No, but our listeners can't see that, but I can confirm that you're not blonde.
No, I'm not blonde, and my husband is also not blonde, but both our uncles are blonde.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it just jumped a generation. Mm-hmm. And my husband all the time says, she doesn't look anything like me. I think she does look a little bit like his sister. I don't think that she looks like me, but people tell me that she looks like me. Like, okay, if you say so. I think we don't see that.
No, we don't. No,
we don't see that. Right?
Yeah.
And with my son, I mean, he looks like her. Therefore, as well, like me, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just want to repeat that for the people who are listening. Mm-hmm. The egg for your daughter was not yours. It was for your daughter was yours, but for your son, it was from a younger woman. And that worked out perfectly fine. And you have a beautiful boy. Yes, so I think one of the bottom line of this whole subject, because we're going to talk a little bit about traveling and how you went to all these places, but is that we have to wake up and understand that it's okay to talk about not being able to have children. It's okay to do IVF. It's okay to whatever. It doesn't make you imperfect just because you can't have children. Yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, I have per year approximately between 2 and 5, depending on what the subjects are, right? Between 2 and 5 couples who come to me for infertility reasons. And actually some so funny. I had 2 last year. I mean, the last year was short because I stopped working in June. 2, they fell pregnant kind of the same time, and they gave birth the same day, 4th of May. From both, I received in the same day a WhatsApp with a picture. The one was born, it's also a girl and boy, both in Switzerland, but in different parts. One in the morning and one at night. So like, how funny, both on the same day.
That's amazing.
Maybe they will meet one day.
So there is, I mean, IVF is the last resort. There are many things that people can do before. Oh, yeah. I mean, if people come and see you, you have a lot of stuff up your sleeve that you can use.
Yeah, so let me tell you I think the first success story when I just started practicing here in Switzerland. A lady who came to me, she was the same age like me. She did already IVF. She had endometriosis and she did many IVFs before because the doctors told her both her tubes are blocked and no chance that she will ever fall pregnant by herself, which is already a sentence that you should never, always, and so on doesn't exist. Everything is reversible. This is functional medicine. It explains to you that everything is reversible. You are not the person that you were 10 years ago because your skin has changed multiple times, your bones have changed, everything has changed. And so as I work also with Chinese medicine, I gave her a vaginal enema to do that would open up the tubes. And she said, yeah, I've got endometriosis, I've got Basedov, so it's a thyroid issue, and my tubes are blocked, I'm giving up. I gave her to do that. She was a dance instructor, so she had some competitions to do. And a month later, I get a WhatsApp, I'm pregnant. Like, oh, that's nice. It never works, right?
That's the thing. Never say never.
Exactly. By now, she's got 2 kids.
Amazing. Isn't that beautiful? That makes you feel good, doesn't it? I mean, that is I think being able to help somebody to have a child is very beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Then I had the second one, also a very similar case. First one, she did normal IVF, meaning a lot of hormones injections. There is also insemination, right? Or just helping with hormones to have ovulation if there is a non-productive ovulation. And then there is another method called natural IVF. So you do not inject any medication, you just go with the cycle of the woman. And the one ovum that is ovulating, you just extract that and do it with that. So that was a couple, they did that already 3 times in Zurich, so very, very expensive, and nothing happened. Why did they do natural? Because she had, in the age of 28, she had breast cancer, and if she would inject anything, she could trigger another cancer to develop. So obviously, and then I gave her herbs, vaginal enema, again, told her, don't eat that, don't eat that, don't eat that. Eat all the leafy greens. Don't take folic acid, just take folate, the activated form of it. Not even a month later. Not even a month. She just started. The first enema she did, 2 days later, they had sex. 2 weeks later, she tells me she's pregnant.
Fantastic. You mentioned the word epigenetics a few times, and I'm a coach. I did my coaching training in Dubai, and we were studying the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with Dr.
Yes.
Bruce Lipton?
Lipton, Hammer, and a few more. Yeah.
Yeah. It's. I think this is something that the Biology of Belief is a book by Dr. Bruce Lipton, and I think that's a book that is very recommendable for people to understand what you said before, because we change. We are not the same. We change all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why anything is possible.
What I say in functional medicine, or what we say in functional medicine actually, is that everything has a lifespan. Yeah. So if we go just like from a normal blood count, red blood cells live 120 days approximately, white blood cells, depending on what kind of white blood cells, between 60 or 30 and 90 days. The bones have a renewal of every 7 years. Your nervous cells, I think, also 3 months. Your skin, 5 to 6 weeks. So you're all the time renewing yourself. The only thing that doesn't really change is the memory, thank God. Otherwise, you would forget all the time.
Yeah, I already do sometimes.
You've got an overload, you start to be selective listening and selective remembering.
Very true. Sometimes it feels full, but no. Now let's talk a little bit about, because my podcast is called Most Memorable Journeys, but your pregnancies are a journey. That is definitely a memorable journey. But I want to know, why were you in Australia? Why did you meet your husband in Australia?
Can I go a bit?
You can go anywhere you want.
I want to actually correct something. You told me that my father escaped Nazi Germany. No, my father was born already in Israel. His parents escaped Nazi Germany.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay.
No,
okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
He was born in 1940. Yeah, but
okay.
In 2004, I have the car accident here in Zurich on the same day that I got the letter of divorce from my first husband. Which is, in hindsight, very interesting, no? 7th of May 2004. the stamp of the judge, and boom. That was a journey for me. I mean, I'm very happy that all that happened. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting where I'm sitting now. Back then, whom did I call after the car accident? My ex-husband, because he was kind of the only one picking up the phone. And from there, I went from doctor to doctor, pill for an ill, right? And I was never really the pill person. But I had so much pain, I couldn't sit longer than 15 minutes. I kind of didn't have the choice of taking something. I was twice, I think, even in emergency room, because I felt I couldn't get up. It was really horrible, and they had to give me hardcore stuff, morphine or something like that. So from there, I went also to acupuncturist and to bioresonance and to whatever, and nothing helped me, nothing. And so eventually someone told me, Wei, you have to go to this woman. She is a naturopath and she does acupuncture and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, no, I have spent so much money already on all those people, and they just suck out the money out of your pocket, and it doesn't do. And she was nagging me, no, you have to go to her. I also had a whiplash. She helped me, blah, 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 and so on. Eventually I said, like, okay, I'm going to call her. She's going to treat me one time. If it's not going to help, bye-bye. Not going to see her. I went there. I stayed 3 hours. She asked me all the right questions. She gave me the space to answer. And then she wanted to release me. And I said, are you not going to treat me? So usually after all the first session or so on, I don't do it. But if you ask like that, yes. She treated me for 20 minutes. She did reflexology. She could hardly touch my big toe. And I was released of 70% of my pain.
Wow.
My mother, who is like the most pragmatic person in town, looked at me afterwards and said, like, you don't look like before. So like, yeah, I don't know what this woman did, but she did something good. And that changed my life. And from there, I went into wanting to study Chinese medicine and naturopathy and so on. And I didn't want to do it in Switzerland. So I wanted to find my own path and go to Israel, where my father is from. Actually, my parents met there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was also, 29, I think. And I wanted to have a husband. And I was at that time a bit religious. And I was dating a lot in Jerusalem. After Jerusalem, I was dating, and no one was good enough. And through a Jewish dating website, and I said, I was only looking within Israel, and then some guy from an Israeli guy, but from Sydney, wrote to me. It wasn't my husband, someone else. And we were having the magical connection. And I thought, wow. And then he even came from Sydney to Israel to meet me.
Wow.
Which was wow and a half. Our communication was already difficult. Whenever he was awake, I was sleeping and so on, right?
Yes.
Upside down world down.
Yeah.
Down under. Yeah, so he came, and then it was magical. We thought we're going to get married, and within 3 weeks, he disappeared on me. As magical as he came into my life, we planned together that I would come to Sydney, that we would see how we function together and so on. I would do a practicum there, 3 months. So he was gone, and I said to myself, you know what? Screw you. I can do it myself. I'm not dependent on any man. But I went onto a Jewish dating site, getting to know site in Australia, where you can also find flatmates and so on. And I didn't look for a boyfriend, anything like that. I just, because the time when I went was also all the high holidays, Jewish high holidays. And I wrote, I don't want to be alone, so on. Maybe someone who, even girls or something, that I could meet. And then Joel appeared. And we have similar background. His father was a painter and artist, and my father is a quite famous in Switzerland and worldwide artist. And then he came pick me up at the airport.
And the rest is history, you said before.
Yeah, the rest is history, exactly. And now my daughter is asking us every evening, what did you do naughty?
She wants
what did you do when you meet each other? It's like, I think you're 5 years old. No, a little bit early to tell you the naughty stuff.
Well, they want to know more and earlier and earlier these days, I think.
Exactly.
So you stayed in Australia, you did an internship. That was a naturopath internship that you did in Australia.
Chinese medicine,
Chinese
nature
medicine.
and herbs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then how did you end up in Switzerland together?
Yeah, so I was born here and grew up here in Switzerland. My parents still live here. My father had to leave Israel because of health reasons. And he went in 1964, he came to Switzerland to the Bircher Benner Clinic in Zurich.
Yeah.
Where the Bircher Müsli was invented.
Right.
Yes. And he was kind of adopted by the chief doctor back then, Dagmar Lichty, who took care of him free of charge because he came from a very poor family. In Israel, they told him in a half year you're going to be dead. And here they pepped him up and brought him back to life, basically.
That's material for another podcast.
Yes. Well, then maybe talk to him directly.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So he was told that he may not make it. And in the Bircher Benner Clinic, which I'm going to put all the links that we are talking about in the show.
Doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately.
Doesn't exist anymore. No, I didn't know that. But so you were saying this before, anything is possible. Never ever believe that what they tell you, this is it, you've got a year or anything is possible. I think that's a very beautiful, yeah.
And it's also in the mind. Everything is possible. Like people are just this morning, I had a client here. She had a very bad vaccine injury from the COVID vaccine. She's got also a 5-year-old. She's about my age, 44, 45, something like that. And the son is asking her already, when are you dying? And I said to her, you never, ever give up. You're going to survive that. There is no chance in hell I'm going to let happen that you are going from here.
Yeah. And that's why there's people like you. There's people like me. I'm a coach. I don't do anything in medicine, but I also help people understand. Never too late. It's all in the mind.
Yeah. The thought has so much impact on everything.
People have a taboo still with mental health that we're not allowed to ask for help. I believe that asking for help is a sign of strength and not a sign of weakness.
It's like crying as well. No, I don't cry. Well, cry, that's a release.
Yeah, I mean, but we're not allowed to cry because when we cry, we're weak.
Mm-hmm. Which is really
total rubbish.
The whole mindset. Men need to be like that, and women need to be like that. The women cry, men don't cry.
That's right. Yes, and as another thing we said before, when there is an infertility problem, we always check the woman first because men are not allowed to have this problem.
Yeah, and you know how many cases? I mean, in Switzerland specifically, I think approximately once a year. When they speak about in the news, when they speak about the water quality, they say that there is a lot of death of fish because they don't reproduce because of the hormones in the water. Where are the hormones coming from? From the birth control pill that the women are eating, which is, are you taking medication? No, I don't take medication. Do you take birth control pill? Yes. This is a medication. Why didn't you mention that before? So... not medication, but it goes through the urine out and it poisons our fish. And then it goes to be drinking water. It can't. That's the only thing that the filters cannot filter out is the hormones because it's too small molecules. Men are drinking it. And what happens to spermies? Bye-bye. Or the next generation that is born of men, they don't have sperm coming out or whatever is not working.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that.
I know, we don't. I want to talk about something else that I don't, not supposed to talk about. I want to talk about you being Jewish.
Yes.
How much do you practice?
So I was born into a family that both my mom's family that came from Odessa were secular. so not very religious.
Mm-hmm.
And also what I know from my grandmother, I think my grandmother's father was very religious or
Mm-hmm.
more religious. And then when my grandmother came in 1939, I think, to Israel with the ship, she was young, and she lied to my grandfather about her age. Naughty.
Very naughty.
And fell pregnant, and they had to get married when she was in the beginning, so they were not so religious.
No, you mean they had sex before they got married, right?
And in 1939, that was like a big deal, right?
I can imagine.
Never mind whether Jewish or not. I mean, what was it in Switzerland? The woman was not able to go and live in an apartment by herself unless she was married or something.
Exactly. Yes.
Taboo.
Yes.
Yeah, and then my father fell ill when he was 11 years old with morbus Bechterew, which is called today ankylosing spondylitis, and was all the time in and out of hospital, taking a lot of pills and so on and so forth. They only had cortisone in that time. And then he kind of woke up as well from this pill for an ill thing. Someone gave him a book about the Maimonides. It was a doctor and a rabbi who lived in 1200 in Egypt and then moved to Spain. And he wrote a whole book that is part of the Bible, of our Bible, about what to eat, how to eat, how the stool should look like. It's called the Book of Life.
Mm-hmm.
And he read that, and then he looked at the plate that they gave him in the hospital and said, like, what am I eating here? This doesn't fit health.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a hospital to become healthy, but that doesn't fit health. And then he went to Haifa, and he did there with a naturopath a fasting cure. He was fasting for 40 days. He didn't eat anything. He had cleaned his whole thing. How did we get to that subject?
I wanted to know about how much of
religion
you practice.
Yeah. Sorry. I deviated a bit. So from reading that book, he became more fascinated by the body and trying to understand what actually the Bible is about. And the Bible is not about so much spirituality. It's actually about our real life.
Mm-hmm.
So when he was in the clinic in Zurich, alone, without any parents, and he just turned 24, a more or less religious family from Zurich adopted him, kind of. They're like his so-called mom or second mother. She still is alive, and she lives not far away from us. And I call her Granny.
Yeah.
She just turned 90, or nice. She's turning 91, sorry. And she's fit as a turnschuh, as a sneaker.
Fit as a fiddle.
Exactly. She still drives her car and so on and so forth. And now she's also not that religious anymore, but he kind of found back to religion. But I actually don't want to say religion, because he had a mentor here who was a very religious rabbi, who was a mathematician, and who had a lot of Christian followers because he did spiritualism, not religion, because religion is man-made, but spiritualism in the connection with the Jewish or the Hebrew alphabet, because there is a lot of hidden stuff there. So when you even say alphabet, that's Aleph Bet, that's the Hebrew version of it. Every letter has, like, you have the appearance of it, what you see in front of you, and then you have what is the meaning, what numerical value does it have, and then you go like step by step. So you probably all have heard of Kabbalah, but not Madonna Kabbalah. This is a different Kabbalah. The cheaper version of it, the quicker version. But the mystics, they say, like, you're not allowed to study Kabbalah unless you're 40 years old, that you are married and you had children. Why? Because it gives you a certain life experience. If you study Kabbalah previously to all your life experience, you might go insane, where we're back in the mental health corner, because it's just too deep. And I can absolutely understand that, because it has so many layers and layers. And so in my practice, I've developed two things. my anamnesis, how I question my patients. It's in 3 sessions and it's about 6 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my God, 6 hours of anamnesis. Well, yeah. Because you need to do a deep dive into your life in order to understand why you are in the place that you are. And
Absolutely.
then I have developed a 5-step program to health, to all embracing health, where it's a lot of questions that each of them answer for themselves, where it's a deep dive. And then the second step, where it's the first step is reconnect, the second step is know the unknown. So that's very much a lot of epigenetics from family and from what are you carrying by yourself, and then what is your name, and where we go over the name, what is the numerical value, and how do you feel with your name? Is it really connection to you, or did you always resent your name and stuff like that? This is very Kabbalistic, but I need to keep it on a kind of superficial level to not, otherwise it can really drag my tails down. Yeah. So when I had my car accident, I was basically in a very similar position like my father when he was brought to Switzerland. He had it gradually, and I had like a boom, car accident. And then I had a time where I turned very religious. I went and I studied everything and names and this, and I was very strict, only with skirts and not giving men the hand, and understanding why they do that. And my mom said, "Oh, you're becoming too extreme," and so on. And said, like, yes, I know, and I will find my middle path, but I need it right now as my framework to get healthy. And so it was. The moment I arrived in Jerusalem, because I decided to make Aliyah to go and live in Israel and study there and find a husband there and so on. I arrived there and I started to go to synagogue. And then I saw that there are all kinds of variations of religiosity. So there was like pants with a skirt above, or pants and the head cover for those who were married. And I thought like, oh, and then I had friends. She was non-religious and he was very religious. Like, how is that working?
Yeah.
Everything works. It just depends. I mean, it's just the internal mindset.
Absolutely.
You make stuff function. So I said like, okay, I'm just doing my own thing. And my husband is very secular. He learned to read. I mean, he lived 8 years of his life in Israel, but that was when he was small, and then he had to go back to South Africa and relearned very much Afrikaans and English, so Hebrew went out of the window. But I do my spiritual thing, and wherever he feels comfortable, he goes along with me. And whatever he doesn't feel, so sometimes he doesn't want to say to his employer that he wants to have free day on Yom Kippur. So he goes to work on Yom Kippur, but then he doesn't eat there. Like, okay, if that makes him happy, it makes him happy. I'm not going to interfere into that.
It's all about tolerance, isn't it? It's all about deciding and being free and not being forced to do something. And then it works out the way you want. You choose how you want it to be.
Absolutely. I mean, there are things that I understand completely. For example, the fact that in Judaism, you do not eat milk and meat together. Now, I studied microbiome analysis. I have another certificate in microbiome analysis from the University of Boulder, Colorado, that I've done just a few weeks before I gave birth last time.
Yeah.
Quick. I understand that because you digest meat differently to dairy products. I mean, if you have inflammation, don't eat red meat and don't eat dairy. That's the one thing. So then you don't have that problem anymore so much. But in Judaism, you say, like, if you eat dairy, you need to wait a half an hour until you have meat. If you eat meat first, you need to wait between 3 and 6 hours until you can have dairy. The one is alkaline and the other one is acid. Meat takes way longer to digest. And it's pretty sour in the pH.
Yeah.
You bring in alkaline, it can make an explosion. Does that mean that I personally don't eat sometimes meat with the rum, with the cream sauce? sometimes I eat.
But
am I going to be hung for that? No. But I feel it afterwards in my tummy.
Yeah, I think we all do. And that's one thing we don't do. We should listen a little bit more to our body, because we can feel it. You're right. And that thing with the meat and the milk is not a religious thing. It's a logical thing at the end of the day. It just happened to be part of the religion.
And I want to tell you another story, if I may. You tell me when the time is up.
We're coming to the end, but tell me.
Okay. A few years ago, I went again, it was when I studied functional medicine, exactly. And then I was in a little bit also listening to Peter D'Adamo, who with the blood type diet and so on, and thought to myself, why is pork so bad? Why is pork so highly inflammatory for people? I mean, I don't eat it. I used to eat it once upon a time, but I don't do that. And then I went into this blood type and thought, what kind of blood type do animals have? So I Googled it, and most of the animals, like sheep or whatever, they've got blood type F and H and S and whatever, not weird stuff that's we never heard of. And pork has got the same blood type like we human. So in other words, you know what they use pig for? To create lungs and hearts for us. They don't take it from a monkey or from a cow. They take it from a pig, because it has the same blood type like we have. And they match it. So if I'm an A negative, and if I would need a lung, they would take it from a pig that has A negative, not from a 0. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, if you're eating yourself up, this is an inflammation. You start to create an autoimmune response. And it's very interesting, because I have a patient who has colitis ulcerosa, and she used to eat a lot of pork, thinking it was healthy. And I said to her, look, you cannot do that. You need to stop it immediately. Yeah, but what am I going to eat then? They're like, no, you don't do that. And she spoke to her parents, and they said, oh, we know that. Inflammation, we never eat. When we have an inflammation, we never eat pork. You should stop it. And her microbiome analysis has changed drastically, but really drastically, from hyperinflammatory within 4 months to almost clean.
Amazing.
By stopping it.
This is all very, very fascinating, Edna, but we have come to the end. And I know that you are in Zurich, but do you treat people online? Because yes. I have people listening. I just checked the statistics before, in 97 countries to my podcast.
Wow, cool.
So can people get in touch with you? We will put your website in the show notes. So if anybody wants to get in touch with Edna Schur, who has been very, very open and honest and beautiful in this podcast, please get in touch with her. And from my side, thank you so much for being my guest on Most Memorable Journeys.
Thank you very much for being here.
If you enjoy my podcast, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. You will find all the information in the show notes.